Prologue, 1 day late. The rain began before the ferry reached the harbour. At first it was only a sparse drizzle on Vargan's muzzle. Then the drops thickened and struck the steel of the vehicle deck in 3 quick beats and 1 slow one, tick, 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 tar. The same rhythm followed them across the dark water as Norway's great harbour city lit up for the evening. Skarvik. Its thousands of windows gleamed behind the rain like stars that had fallen too low. Cranes stood in the harbour like long black birds. Car ferries breathed steam. Bridges arched over the water, and streets crossed one another like a forest made by people, where not a single trunk grew straight. Vargan and Asmund followed the shadows of the cars down the loading ramp. Steel boomed beneath their paws, the sea breathed black between ferry and quay, and the city's rain washed mountain snow from their coats. Vargan stopped at the edge of the harbour. The farm in central Finland was now hundreds of kilometres away. Its yard birches were behind them, along with the cloudberry bog, the bear tracks, the wolves' eyes, and the snow that had thundered down the mountain. Vargan and Asmund had followed their family scent along roads, through forests, and over mountains. They had travelled because home was not a building or a field. Home was the one you returned to. But they were 1 day late. The broad tire track of a moving van crossed the wet gravel of the ferry terminal. Beside it, Vargan found the print of a familiar shoe, the dry interior scent of the vehicle, and 1 red wool fibre caught on a stone. Rain had fallen over the trail once, but not twice. The family had left the harbour only 1 day earlier. 1 day was not much in a forest. In a city, it was an entire eternity. Asmund sat on a stone wall and licked harbour dust from 1 front paw. The tips of his long brown fur had darkened in the rain, but his green eyes retained their familiar, uninjured dignity. It appears that humans built a forest, forgot the trees, and then decided to get lost in it all at once, he said. Vargan did not answer. He raised his enormous head and drew air deep into his lungs. See. Diesel fuel. Wet concrete. Fried fish. Hot rubber. Thousands of shoes. Hundreds of dogs. Cats in windows, on roofs, and in cellars. The quick, warm scent of a rat beneath the drain covers. And among it all, something familiar. A thread as fine as a hair, already close to breaking. Vargan's amber eyes opened. They have been here. Asmund stopped washing his paw. Are you certain? I am. Good. I was beginning to fear we might have to ask for directions. Vargan stepped onto the first rain-soaked street. The rain answered, tick, 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 tar. And the city swallowed them. Chapter 1, The City That Ate Scents. In the forest, every scent knew its place. Pine resin stayed on the trunk. A hare's trail ran through the undergrowth. The wind told whether there was a moose, a person, or a gathering storm beyond the lake. Vargan had learned to read them all as a puppy, although his legs had seemed too large then and his ears always appeared to arrive everywhere a moment after the rest of him. Now the puppy in him was fading. With winter, Vargan's coat had grown long and double-layered. Warm shades of golden brown ran through the grey and silver, while his black mask gave his broad face a serious expression. 80 centimeters tall and 70 kilograms, he was long-legged, deep-chested, and athletic. He no longer looked as if he were growing into something. He had grown. Yet even Vargan's nose could not put the world in order in Skarvik. A bus blasted hot air into his face and wiped the family scent from the street. 100 people crossing an intersection tangled the trail into 100 new paths. Rain carried the scent into a gutter, from which it rose again in the next block from entirely the wrong direction. Vargan turned left, stopped, returned, and turned right. Asmund followed with his ears flattened. If you intend to smell the whole city 1 stone at a time, let me know. I shall find a dry windowsill for my old age. The trail keeps breaking at the traffic. Then your nose is not the problem. The problem is that you are trying to travel like a dog. Vargan looked at him. I am a dog. Exactly the kind of thinking that slows progress. Asmund leapt onto a wall, from there to the roof of a rubbish shelter, and then to the first fire escape. His great tail balanced every step. A moment later, the cat stood on a third-floor ledge, high above the cars and rain. I shall look at the city, he called down. You smell it. Stay where I can see you. I am always visible. Other creatures do not always know where to look. Asmund disappeared beyond the ridge of the roof. Vargan continued alone. He quickly learned a few of the city's rules. When the light was green, people streamed across the street. When it was red, cars streamed past. When both seemed to have stopped, a bicycle might come from anywhere. Tram rails were slippery. A revolving door was a trap no wise dog entered twice. The city's dogs traveled on leads. Most looked at Vargan once and then forgot everything else. One small white dog barked so furiously that its owner had to lift it into her arms. Easy, Vargan said as he passed. I would not fit in your pocket anyway. The little dog stopped barking from sheer astonishment. As he neared the harbor, Vargan found the family's scent again. It clung faintly to a pedestrian crossing post, the touch of a familiar hand, the smell of home pressed into red wool, and dry dust from the inside of a car. Vargan pressed his nose to the metal. A warm, heavy feeling kindled in his chest. They truly had been here. The trail continued west towards the old fish market. Vargan did not notice the black dog that rose from the shadow beneath a bridge and began to follow him. He did not notice the second one either. He smelled the third, but by then the alley had already begun to narrow.